Here at the Tigers Minor League Report, we highlight prospects and their individual performances, but at the end of the day, baseball is a team game. Two affiliates reached the postseason in 2023 as the Erie Seawolves won the Eastern League crown. It was the first time they won the league and the first AA affiliate of the Tigers to capture the title since the London Tigers did back in 1990. The Lakeland Flying Tigers, who got off to a slow start, rebounded in the second half of the season behind some fresh faces and reached the postseason. Our top 5 Tiger minor league games start with the Flying Tigers as they almost pulled off an impressive comeback. The 90-degree day at first pitch was nothing unusual for this time of year in Florida. What was unusual was the bigger than normal crowd on a Tuesday evening as fans came out to see the second starter first overall draft pick, Paul Skeens. Marauders jumped out early off Flying Tigers starter Eduardo Ibada and Chris Williams Jr. Ibada allowed 9 runs over just 1 2/3 innings of work, while Williams Jr. was tagged for 5. All 14 of Brington's runs came within the first 3 innings. But Lakeland started to chip away in the fourth on a pair of home runs from Max Anderson and Jose De La Cruz. That was followed up by a 3-run home run from Christian Santana in the 5th to make the score 14-6. That would kick off the inning in which Lakeland scored 7 times, and when the smoke cleared in the 5th, it was 14-10 Bradenton, looking more like a football score. Flying Tigers would add a run in the 6th and 7th before scoring the top of the 9th. Lakeland had 2 runners on before ending the game on a fly out to left. Lakeland continued an impressive run of baseball in which they went 37-14 in July and August. The Flying Tigers went 20-4 in the month of July as their offense hammered out 27 home runs and scored 171 runs, which led the Florida State League.
Every year, minor league baseball teams host a handful of school kids' days. The 11 a.m. start times aren't ideal for players or stadium workers, but the elementary schoolers scream like they're on roller coasters for about 3 hours straight, so we're pretty sure they enjoy it. And on Tuesday, May 16th, a crowd of just under 7,000 kids witnessed one of the wildest games of the year at Dow Diamond in Midland. West Michigan Whitecaps outfielder Roberto Campos kicked off the game with a first-pitch double, and singles from Justice Bigby and Eliezer Alfonso gave the Whitecaps a 1-0 lead. That lead was short-lived, however, as the Great Lakes Loons scored twice in the bottom of the first to go up 2-1. Things were calm for a few innings, but then the fireworks really began. The Loons picked up 4 extra base hits in the bottom of the third, including a 2-run homer from Damon Keith and a 449-foot bomb from Griffin Lockwood Powell. But the Whitecaps immediately cut into the Loons' 6-1 lead thanks to a 2-run homer from Austin Murr. West Michigan then made it 6-4 with a titanic 453-foot blast from Isaac Pacheco, and just a few batters later, the Whitecaps tied it at 6 on a 2-run double by Danny Soretti. Then in the 6th, the Caps took the lead again thanks to a 2-run missile off the bat of Roberto Campos that traveled 407 feet. But then it was the Loons' turn to score again, and a 3-run 6 gave them a 9-8 lead. The score stayed 9-8 for a full inning, but in the 8th, the Campos walk and singles from Pacheco, Bigby, and Myers pushed the Whitecaps to an 11-9 advantage. An Austin Gauthier home run against Blake Hollow made it 11-10 in the 8th, and Trevin Michael was called on to close out the game for the Caps. Michael punched out the first 2 batters he faced, then Lockwood Powell reached on a bizarre bloop single. Center fielder Roberto Campos should have been able to make the play, but right before the pitch he retreated to the warning track to grab something dropped by one of the elementary school fans in the lawn past the center field wall. Another single put the tying run at third and the go-ahead run on base, but Michael was able to lock in and get 1 more strikeout to end the game. The Whitecaps prevailed 11-10 in a game that saw 24 combined hits, 35 combined base runners, 5 lead changes, and about a half a mile of home runs. The Loons fans may have gone home disappointed, but that definitely beat spending the day at school, and it made for one of our most memorable games of the year. Our list of the top 5 Tigers minor league games of the 2023 season continues with the best single-game performance by any Tigers prospect all year. In fact, MLB.com named it the best single-game performance by any minor leaguer in 2023. We're talking, of course, about Colt Keith's 6-for-6, 2-home run, 7 RBI cycle on May 16th against the Harrisburg Senators. Keith was the second batter of the game, and he kicked off his epic night with a long 2-run homer to right off Harrisburg southpaw Mitchell Parker. It didn't take much longer for Keith to pick up the hardest part of the cycle. He came to the plate again in the first inning, this time against Senators reliever Reed Schaller with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and Keith laced a 3-run triple down the right field line. Erie led 8-0, and Keith already had 5 RBIs. Colt Keith saw Schaller again to lead off the 4th inning, with Erie's lead now cut down to 8-4. But Keith changed that with a 380-foot solo shot down the right field line. Then in the 5th, Keith picked up RBI number 7 against Harrisburg lefty Evan Lee with a 2-out opposite field double off the base of the wall. So now Keith was just a single away from the cycle, and he didn't take long to get it, leading off the 7th inning with a sharp grounder past Senator second baseman JT Arruda. And then Colt Keith concluded his historic night in the 8th inning with a soft looper over the outstretched glove of Arruda. A cycle, 2 homers, 6 hits, 7 RBIs, 15 total bases. One of the best games ever from a Detroit Tigers minor leaguer, and certainly a game worth remembering for Colt Keith and Detroit Tigers fans.
As the 2023 season comes to a close, we here at the Tiger Minor League Report will be looking back at some of the best individual performances of the season. The way our number 1 prospect infielder, Colt Keith, ended the month of August was one of the most dominant stretches by one player that fans saw all season. After hitting just .219 in the month of July, Keith roared back, hitting .327 with 7 home runs and an OPS over 1,000. Over his last 10 games, Keith went 18 for 40 with 7 walks to just 5 strikeouts. While he may not have a guaranteed spot when spring training starts in February, Keith certainly has made his mark, leading all Tiger minor leaguers in hits with 155, and having an ISO over 200, both AA Erie and AAA Toledo. The adjustment to Toledo was seamless, and the way Keith finished the season shows that he will be making a name for himself in 2024. Next up on our TMLR Memorable Games of 2023, we go back to our live look at Sawyer Gipson-Long's start back on August 18th, 2023. When he spoke to us a few weeks later, he spoke about the development staff asking him to throw a changeup to go along with his fastball, which would help against lefties.
In the peak towards first, his 2-2 is swung on and missed. He got him. Well, that'll give him a lift as he strikes out. Oliveris, a pretty good hit.
Before spring training, I added my sinker back into my repertoire. I threw that in college, and the numbers on it were really good, and the Tigers really liked it. So I think adding that back in gave them a little bit of confidence to push me in my development of adding another pitch, and they thought the cutter was the pitch to go with. So I pitched on like a Tuesday, and I was supposed to pitch on Sunday for the 5-day, and then our coordinator, Gabe Rebus, called me and said, "We're going to skip your start. We want you to throw a couple bullpens and learn a cutter." I was like, all right, let's do it. And pretty much bought in. I didn't have any real hesitation. I was like, it's only going to help me. Even if I can't figure it out, like being able to attempt to throw this pitch is still, going to help me in the future just for experimental purposes or trying to figure out what I can and can't throw. And eventually I found a grip that worked for me after, tinkering a little bit and experimenting and throwing it in bullpens. And, throwing it the first time in a game, it was exciting just to see what would happen. And I've stuck with it, and it's still developing for me. Like all my other pitches I've thrown my whole life, and I have a huge sample size with those. But the cutter I've just started throwing for a few months now, so I'm still working on it, still experimenting with it, but right now it's been really good for me to neutralize lefties.
After some experimentation and armed with a new pitch, Long missed one start before cruising the rest of the way in Erie. During this start against Omaha, Long was throwing with precision, striking out 12, allowing a weak flare to left. He would hit double digits again in strikeouts, but this time it was in a Tigers uniform a month later against the Angels, striking out 11. Gipson-Long put himself in the mix for the Tigers rotation next season, and this start showed his ability to command the strike zone. A Scott Harris law. Heading into the 2023 postseason, Brant Hurter was one of the better starters for Erie. Over his last 6 regular season starts, spanning 27 innings, he allowed just 2 earned runs, holding batters to a 167 batting average, and allowing just 1 home run over that span. For our next Tiger Minor League Report memorable performance of 2023, Hurter took that consistency to a new level. Similar to Sawyer Gipson-Long, Hurter also benefited from the Tigers development staff, as he notes here on what he was tinkering with in 2023 to become a better starter.
The Tigers are big on it, having that like third pitch. They love the changeup and just thinking like it's another pitch to throw to them and keep them off balance. And yeah, they think it's really important for the big leagues, which I agree. You got to throw 3 pitches for strikes at least. So yeah, it's been a big organizational thing.
All right. In the opening series on the road against Richmond, a place that's given Erie issues in the past, Hurter tossed 6 shutout innings, punching out 6. He saved his best for last, going 7 innings, allowing 3 hits and striking out 7 in the clinching game. Overall, he threw 13 scoreless innings in the postseason and helped Erie clinch their first Eastern League title.
Dead at the letters. First pitch, Parada swings, sends it in the air, right field line. Malgiri into the bullpen. Can he make the catch? He does, and that's the ball game! The Seawolves have done it! For the first time in franchise history! I love Erie, Pennsylvania!